You're sitting at a red light, 10 seconds pass. Your hand is already moving toward your phone. You don't decide to do this, it just happens. Something in you cannot tolerate 10 seconds of nothing. Most people assume this is a modern problem, a side effect of too many notifications and too little patience. But the real answer is far stranger. Boredom isn't a flaw in your design. It's one of the oldest alarm systems your brain has ever built, and it has been going off in one form or another for hundreds of thousands of years. To understand why, you have to ask a strange question. What is boredom actually for? Psychologist John Eastwood, who studies boredom at York University, defines it in a way that sounds almost clinical. Boredom, he argues, is the uncomfortable feeling of wanting to be engaged in something satisfying while being unable to do so. Notice what that means. Boredom isn't the absence of stimulation, it's the presence of an unmet need. Your brain isn't asking for entertainment. It's signaling that your attention has nowhere useful to go and that this is a problem worth solving immediately. That distinction matters more than it seems. Hunger tells you that your body is running low on fuel. Pain tells you that something is damaging your tissue. Boredom, in this light, tells you that your mind is running low on purpose. It's not a small inconvenience. It's a survival signal, dressed up as a mood. So what happens when that signal gets ignored? In 2014, psychologist Timothy Wilson and his colleagues at the University of Virginia ran an experiment that became famous almost overnight. They placed people alone in a room with nothing to do, no phone, no book, no task. Just their own thoughts for 15 minutes. Many participants found it almost unbearable. Then the researchers added a twist. They gave people the option to administer a mild electric shock to themselves just to break the monotony. A striking number of people chose the shock, not because they enjoyed pain, because doing something, even something unpleasant, felt better than doing nothing at all. Think about what that reveals about you. Your brain would rather suffer a small jolt of discomfort than sit in unstructured silence. That's not weakness. That's an ancient system doing exactly what it evolved to do. Now picture your ancestors 100,000 years ago, somewhere on the plains of East Africa. Food is found, not delivered. Shelter is built, not rented. Every single day presents a long stretch of time that could be spent simply existing, or spent scanning, exploring, testing, noticing. The ones who could sit still and feel nothing, who were content to stay in one place, doing nothing new, often stayed exactly where they were. The ones who couldn't tolerate that stillness moved. They explored the next ridge. They tested a new plant. They wandered toward unfamiliar terrain, restless and unsatisfied with the world exactly as it was. That restlessness has a name now. We call it curiosity. But underneath curiosity is something rawer. It's boredom, doing its job. This is the counterintuitive twist most people never consider. Boredom may be one of the quiet engines behind why humans spread across the entire planet. Other species stayed remarkably put, generation after generation, content within the boundaries of a stable territory. Humans didn't. Something kept pushing outward, across oceans, into deserts, over mountain ranges that offered no obvious reward for crossing them. An animal driven only by hunger and safety would have stopped expanding once those needs were met. Humans kept going anyway. Boredom may be the discomfort that made exploration feel necessary, even when survival didn't strictly require it. There's evidence for this in a place you wouldn't expect. Creativity research. Psychologist Sandy Mann at the University of Central Lancashire ran studies asking people to do deliberately dull tasks before a creative challenge, things like copying numbers out of a phone book. The people who had just been bored performed better on creative tasks afterward than people who hadn't. Their minds, starved of external stimulation, had started generating their own. Boredom hadn't shut their thinking down, it had redirected it inward, and that redirection produced new ideas. This is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. For most of human history, boredom had nowhere easy to go. There was no infinite scroll waiting to absorb it instantly. So it built things instead. It built tools, stories, rituals, language, art on cave walls that serve no practical survival function at all. Boredom, denied an easy escape, became one of the primary drivers of human invention. Now ask yourself what happens when boredom finally gets an easy escape. You already know the answer because you're living inside it. Your phone exists, more than almost anything else in your environment, to intercept that ancient signal the instant it appears. The moment your mind says, I have nowhere satisfying to direct my attention, something in your pocket answers immediately, with infinite, frictionless options. The alarm goes off and it gets silenced in under 2 seconds. This sounds harmless. It might be exactly the opposite. Aaron Westgate, a psychologist at the University of Florida who studies how people regulate their own attention, has pointed to something important here. Boredom isn't just discomfort to be eliminated, it carries information. It's telling you that what you're currently doing doesn't feel meaningful, and that you should change something, your task, your environment, your direction. When you interrupt that signal too quickly, you never act on the information it was offering. You just mute the alarm and continue exactly as you were. Imagine a smoke detector that you've trained yourself to silence within 2 seconds, every single time it goes off, without ever checking whether there's actually a fire. That's what's happening, quietly, dozens of times a day, inside your own mind. This is the modern mirror nobody wants to look directly into. The ancestor who felt restless in an empty landscape stood up and walked toward the unfamiliar ridge. You feel restless in an empty moment, and you reach for the one object guaranteed to feel familiar. The signal hasn't changed in 100,000 years, only the response has. One version of that response built civilizations. The other version mostly just refreshes a feed. It raises an uncomfortable question. What might you build, discover, or notice? If you let that 10 seconds of nothing simply sit there, unanswered, the way your ancestors had no choice but to. You don't have to find out today. But the next time you're sitting at a red light and your hand starts moving toward your phone before you've even noticed the urge, pause for 1 second longer than feels comfortable. That discomfort isn't empty. It never was. It's the oldest, most patient voice in your head, still asking the same question it asked on the plains of East Africa, still waiting for you to actually answer it.